wind noise, and it's hard to...
Away we go. So here I am talking with Alina Herrman, Captain Alina Herrman, who is the master of this beautiful paddle steamer PS Murray Princess. In fact, the largest paddle steamer or sternwheeler in the Southern Hemisphere. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So, Alina, I guess there aren't really too many paddle steamer or riverboat captains left at all, let alone women. How does it that you found yourself in this position?
It was a total accident for me, actually. I used to work in the oil industry, and then in the downturn about 7 or 8 years ago, I found myself, let alone without a job, without a career. And I thought, what else can I do? And been boating for most of my life. So I came to the Princess as a deckhand, and 6 years later, now I'm the captain.
And when you say you're in the oil industry, this is like offshore tenders and things like that?
Yeah, I never worked offshore. I was in the office.
Oh, right, okay. But the sea was clearly, and the water and was clearly in your blood.
It was, yes.
Yeah. So how long have you been with Murray Princess?
A little bit over 6 years now.
Wow. Okay. So that in that time you would have seen a lot of the river.
Yeah.
And I'm sure plenty of experience. What are some of the standout moments you remember cruising along this beautiful river?
Probably the sunrises and sunsets are probably the ones that stick with you. Just those beautiful quiet times where the cliffs are all lit up.
And here we are cruising along. We're cruising. We've left on our way to Mannum. We're not that far upstream from Mannum, are we, at the moment?
No, probably in a car you could do it in half an hour.
Half an hour by car.
We won't be back till tomorrow morning.
You can probably hear the screeching of the Corellas in the background, and Alina tells me that they're well, they're not welcome guests on board the ship, unfortunately, but they do nest in abundance here in the cliffs, and apparently they scratch their own nests.
They do. They love the cliffs. The morning sun warms the cliffs, and then they go in their little holes at night and stay warm all night. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, as I say, in 6 years you've been cruising up and down the beautiful Murray River. Apart from the sea, there must have been some things that happened along the way that remember, some wonderful experiences, some scary moments too, perhaps.
Definitely scary moments, some near misses, and it's not uncommon on a vessel this size. You do run into the bushes and trees occasionally. Probably some of the special ones, I encountered an emu swimming along the river. He or she swam next to us for about 5 minutes. That was absolutely incredible.
Wow. And that animal wasn't in distress?
No, it was having a great time. Yeah, it was just crossing the river, so...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess the thing is, of course, the Murray is, even with the locks and weirs, it's still prone to varying levels and
right.
Certain places. And, you know, even when you're fishing or small boating, snags can be a hazard, can't they?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, when we were walking along the banks earlier this morning, you pointed out these fabulous cliffs, and you did a wonderful explanation of. Can you just remind us how these cliffs came about and what's so special about them?
So,
it's a beautiful example here at the moment.
Yeah, these are some of the most photographed cliffs along the river, the Nildoddy Cliffs. And so early on in the existence of Australia, millions of years ago, there was a huge inland sea here, and it deposited many layers of sand, which you can see in the cliffs now. And when the sea retreated for the last time, it left a giant inland lake stretching from pretty much where we are now all the way up to Swan Hill. And that lake rose and rose and rose, and eventually it found a gap in the hills to flow through, and it began to cut away at the soft sediment on its way to the sea. And that's how these beautiful cliffs were formed. And we only ever see one side of the cliffs at a time because we're in a huge riverbed here. This river we think of as big is actually a tiny trickle left of that enormous Mega Murray that flowed
Mega Murray, I like that term. We think of it as a Mega Murray now, but it's the Murray trickle.
It is,
comparatively,
yes.
Yeah. Now you did mention also, which I found interesting, that the composition of the cliffs aren't quite sandstone and aren't quite limestone.
That's right. So it's calcareous sandstone.
Could you say that again?
Calcareous sandstone.
Okay.
So it's halfway between the two.
You can test me on that later. Okay. And because I remember coming up here as a child and being in wonder and seeing that they're full of fossils and seashells, even what appeared to be almost intact tiny seashells in the sand on the shore. So if there ever was a doubt that this was a seabed, the proof is here, isn't it?
That's right, yeah, definitely.
My goodness, these cliffs, aren't they something else?
They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Goodness me. Well, look, I thank you so much for taking the time out from your duties at the helm here on the beautiful Murray Princess, and we hope to speak to you later on. Thank you very much, Alina Herrman,
No
Master
worries.
of the vessel. Right.